Hey guys, it's Paul from Montana. I am working on a Makita MAC5200 air compressor, and I have the valve switch, the pressure switch I guess you call it, completely disassembled, and these are a pain to put back together. Man, I struggle with this and finally kind of figured out a trick. So shooting this video to hopefully help you out if you're in the same predicament. So the first thing I did was I put the center of the block here in a vise, and it's kind of at an angle, like a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to explain why I did that here in a minute. So the first thing you do is you put this plastic piece in this orientation. Okay, so you can see it's in the correct orientation because these two round plastic bosses sticking out are contacting the copper, and it's seated all the way down in there. The next part you put in is this centerpiece that has a spring on it. You want the spring to be installed just like that. And here's the reason why I have this in a vise at a 45-degree angle. The reason is it could have been even steeper. There, that actually worked pretty good. The reason is you have to get that spring so it's kind of hanging on that shelf there. If it ends up down inside the housing, you're not going to be able to get it back together at later stages. So you want it hanging on the housing there, and you want this little arm sticking out the side of this housing through the hole. Okay, so that went really good. Next, install the adjustment screw. This is the adjustment screw that you can adjust on the top of the assembly for pressure settings, and it's really there's only one way it can go into this boss. I mean, not boss, but hole in the housing. And it drops right in there all nice. Now put the spring in right into that same hole. Next, put this piece on, and it goes with that protrusion sticking out towards you, which is basically the bottom of the housing once it's all assembled. So this piece, you can see there's a hole punched in here, and on the reverse side of that hole there's a feature that kind of sticks out and keeps that spring centered where that hole is. And also these two tabs sit inside the housing. Oh, get in there. Sit inside the housing just right. You can see how it fits in there. So at this point, you kind of want to reposition this so it's not at a 45-degree angle. You can make it flat. I'm not really going to do that because I'm one-handed here. The next step is well, let's back up. You're done assembling this, so you can take it out of here, and then you want to assemble it to this little pan housing that goes gets installed back on the air compressor. So this housing has a diaphragm underneath it. Here's the diaphragm. Orientation of this one, because it's used, you can see there's like a really sharp rim in there that's been impressed in it from the rim that's on this piece here. So that goes down, that goes on there just like this. Now this is hard to juggle all this. It might actually be wise to take some painter's tape or some kind of tape or something and kind of tape this thing in place so that you can get this all back together. I'm not going to be able to do this at all because I'm juggling things one-handed. Okay, so this assembly gets put back onto here on this side, and the orientation of it will be obvious. You just need to look at your compressor and just figure out, you know, that this thing's got to be facing out away from the compressor. And then you fish the screws down through that diaphragm that's underneath there, and then you thread them into this piece. Now this piece, you have to look at the orientation based on how it was installed on your machine. I can't tell you that right now without looking at it. And then here's, of course, the 4 screws that sandwich this all together. They go through the top of the housing, through this piece, and into this. Get them all on there nice and snug. Now the last thing you want to do is install the on-off switch. This is the bar that, you know, coincides with this on-off, and it goes through the housing, right through the side of the housing, right here, through a hole. And I found that the easiest way to do this was to put a flat screwdriver inside here and pry up on the little mechanism that this pushes on, and then force that thing through the hole and get it in place, and then put it in the correct orientation. It's kind of like the last thing that you do. Oh, I forgot one major thing though. Okay, so that spring that I was talking about so much, after this thing's all assembled, not before, but after it's all assembled into this housing, you need to set this spring. And the way to do it is with a really good pair of grippy needle nose pliers. And you get in there and you grab onto that spring and you pull it out, and it has to set on this tab right here where there's a little dent. It's kind of hard to do. You just got to get mean with it and pop it on there. Don't try to do it before, like during all this assembly. If you try to hook that spring on there and hold this thing together, it's like a mouse trap. The second you let go of it, it comes apart. You'll never get it done. So you want to set that spring kind of at the very end of all this assembly and get it on there. And then put your air compressor back together. On this particular model, I'm pretty sure you have to move the motor out of the way in order to screw that valve back on. I'm not pretty sure, I know you do. So I'm going to have to release this motor, get it out of the way a little bit, and screw it back onto this fitting right here, and then get this stuff all put back together. Alright, well, thanks for watching. I hope this is not just a confusing mess. And I hope it helps you. Thanks.